Good evening. Welcome to Safford City Council meeting. We have a roll call, or a reminder, if you have your cell phone, to go ahead and mute it or turn it off. It's up to you. A roll call, we're all present. The Pledge of Allegiance is going to be offered by Councilman Arnold Lopez, following by the prayer by Councilman Mike Anazola. Would you stand? Remain standing for both, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, for bringing us together, Lord, in your name, Jesus. Bring the council together to bring thoughts and bring new things to our city, Lord. We ask you that you open each and one of our hearts, Lord. Be open-minded to accept what we're going to be tonight. We ask you to please bless our city manager, our city clerk, our department heads, and most of all, we give thanks to our great employees that serve this city. And we also are grateful for our citizens, Heavenly Father. We ask you to please invoke your arms around Mayor Couts and what he's going through right now, Lord Jesus. We ask you to please just give him the guidance and life that he needs. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman. Brings us to item 5, citizen comments on agenda items. Brings us to item 6, citizen comments on non-agenda items. I do have one. Sharon Gale, Mrs. Gale, would you come up to the podium and go ahead and give us your address and the I only have one. Do I have more? Yeah. Okay. It's good to see you, Sharon, by the way.
The responsible party for setting some closure. When is it going to be finished? They're just now putting in sidewalks, which means I think we're probably another 6 months out. But I do feel like the people who live off of that street pretty fed up and tired of beating their cars up and not having better access. So all I'm asking is, can we put heat on the people who need to finish the project? That's my issue.
Sharon, not allowed to respond to you. I'm going to go ahead and just say, I do feel your pain. I drive down the road and just to see the progress on it as well. And I do feel your pain. I am going to ask staff that we need to send out a letter to every person around this area, or at least go knock on doors and let the people know what the heck's going on and at least address some of this issue. It's not too much to ask. It's not too much to put for the burden of those who are living on and or around 20th. And so if staff would please do that, I'm asking that you would do that. And John, I'm asking that you would make sure that gets done so that Mrs. Gale, as well as others, will know what's going on. Thank you, Mrs. Gill. Any others? County, that's all. Hi, Beatrice, how are you? Good to see your smiling face. That's going to bring us to item 7, which is new and old business. Tammy? Anybody have any questions? If so, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move that we approve January 20th and 23rd, 2023 council minutes.
Second.
We have a motion to approve January 23rd, 2023 council minutes as stated here. I have a second by Councilman Mike Anazola. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion does pass. Bring us to item 7.2, the Payne property. Lance?
That's good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the city, mayor and council to approve the purchase of approximately 12,000 square feet of vacant land owned by Keith and Shauna Payne, located at 1820 South 14th Avenue, which is just directly north of the El Paso Park Retention Basin. This land purchase would serve as 18th Street right-of-way, future 18th Street right-of-way west of 14th Avenue for future development. Staff approached the Paynes not long after they purchased the property to see if they'd be interested in selling some of the property for a future 18th Street extension, along with the property west of the future 18th Street alignment that would be next to the pond. The Paynes decided to replat the property and create 3 lots, with all 3 lots having access to 14th Avenue, 1 flag lot and 2 lots with 14th Avenue frontage. They purposely created the flag lot to align with the 18th Street, the future 18th Street alignment, and approached staff to see if the city was still interested in that 18th Street right of way. The appraised opinion of value of the potential 18th Street right of way, which is approximately 50 foot by 240 foot, through the Payne's property is $23,000. Staff has put together a utility connection estimates for the Paynes with construction fees and labor equipment costs totaling $6,701. Staff has also discussed with the Paynes that a purchase agreement would spell out the fact that the city would not be doing any improvements to the right of way other than maintaining an all-weather access for sanitation emergency access vehicles. When future development is to the west takes place, then that developer would be responsible for improvements if they wish to use that right of way for ingress, egress, and their utility access. Staff is recommending the purchase of this 12,000 square foot of vacant land from Keith and Shauna Payne for the amount of $23,000, with the construction fees, labor, and equipment costs paid out of the purchase amount by the Paynes. Funds required for the purchase of the property would therefore be $16,299. Survey closing costs and recording fees are estimated at $2,500. Funding for this would come from the FY 2022-23 contingency funds, and to cover the expenditure, and HERF reserves would cover the revenue. Is there any questions on this?
Lance, you have construction fees, labor, and equipment costs totaling $6,701.
Yes.
What are they at? What are they having ran into there?
So we're not gonna run any mains up that 18th. Right now, they have a flag lot and 2 lots, so they can access from 14th Avenue. We've already established a utility easement on the south side of their property for power and sewer, come in the backside right against the park. The water line, they have frontage on 14th Avenue and meters are already there, so we'll run that. We're actually probably gonna move their meter back by the house. We don't have to, but we will move it back by the house for the future right away if we make this purchase. Otherwise, they don't have to do, they've got all the utilities already there if we don't do this. And so I'm just kind of trying to plan for.
So the utilities are already there with the 3 lot split?
From 14th, yeah.
So lot, all 3 lots would actually have a water meter already. And so what I'm asking, what I'm getting at
There's 2
is,
meters already.
I only
there.
see $6,700, and I know what we have for impact fees.
We're not waiving any impact capacity fees.
Okay, so, but they understand that that's not in this.
We don't waive that.
I want to clarify that and make sure that, well, that at least it's noted. Okay.
And talking to the Paynes, he could use that amount to pay his capacity fees.
Anybody else, any other questions?
I'll move that we approve the Payne property purchase.
Second.
Vice Mayor, would you go ahead and add the amount of money that's in this for us, please?
The total was 23,016.
I think it's 16,299, correct?
With an additional 2,500. So it'd be 18,799.
That amount 18,000.
799.
799. That's
Still second.
okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the Payne property purchase for $18,799 located at 1820 South 14th Avenue. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Lance. Ordinance 23-04. Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for a second read and approval of the ordinance 023-004, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, rezoning Graham County Assessor Parcel 102-01-008 as AR Agricultural Residential District. A public hearing and first read of this proposed ordinance was held on February 27th, 2023. No further comments have been received by staff as of today.
Entertain a motion?
I'll move we approve ordinance 023-004 with a names rezone.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve ordinance 23-004, the ordinance of a name change, and we have a second by Councilman Brad Hemphill. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Brings us to item 9.1, contracts agreements for 8th Avenue Park Complex Bid Award. Yeah, oh, you got to read it in. Yes, you do.
Effectuating a map amendment rezoning Graham County Assessors Parcel Number 102-01-002 to City of Safford AR Agricultural Residential District.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to authorize the execution of a professional service agreement between the City of Safford and Kimley Horn for an engineering services for the 8th Avenue Park Complex. A request for qualification was completed by the City of Safford in February of 2023. The RFQ was requested to find a qualified engineering firm for the design of the 15-acre parcel owned by the city. The design requires structural analysis, design of splash pad sewer extensions, geotechnical analysis, drainage, landscaping, and other infrastructures. The funding for the 8th Avenue Park Complex will be funded using ARPA funds. The city has allocated ARPA funds for the park complex. The money will be used for both construction and design. Expenditures for the ARPA funds need to be contracted by the end of 2024 and fully spent by the end of 2026. This design process will design the entire park complex to a 30% design level with cost estimates for all park amenities. At that point, Kimley Horn will receive input from city and park advisory committees on which amenities to move forward with to the 100% design level and construction phase. Any amenity cost beyond the ARPA funding will be considered, and if additional funds are available, included in phase one. Otherwise, they'll be considered in future phases and will be completed either internally or externally with an alternative funding source. Right now, it's a proposal for $332,000 and $143,000, with all of it being grant covered. We did have a budget of $2.4 million for 2023. Staff recommends Mayor and Council to approve the execution of the engineering contract with Kimley Horn in the amount of $332,143 and allow the city manager or designee authority to execute contract orders and change orders not to exceed the 10% of the contract value if in the best interest of the city to do so. With that, I'll answer any questions you guys may have.
So Gabe, with this outrageous amount of money to design a park, what happens if the bids come in and they exceed the 2.4? Does Kimberly Horn get extra percent of money based on that?
No, they're willing to work with us and they know our budgetary
Well, I
restraints for the ARPA.
I need to know for sure if that's in the contract, regardless of what the amount comes out to, that they can't come back and ask for their percentage because the amount of the contract exceeded the amount that was uh, allocated for.
Yeah, and that's the way it's set out for that. We do have the option, is, and like we stated here, right? If we want to add more amenities with alternative funding sources that we'd sponsor from the city, we do have that option, and we'd have to pay for that engineering services for that. But as of right now, they'll take us through all of the ARPA funding. So
And if we do in-house work, do we get to subtract this amount off?
they will take us through, and that's what we're going to wind up doing with Kimley Horn. There's certain things that even me right now couldn't do from a civil point of view, structural analysis. We'd have to get a specialized service to do that. There's certain things that we want them to take care of that we wouldn't be able to, but absolutely more that we can do. We'll phase it in a way that we get most of everything covered that we can do.
So your proposal is a complete design, complete engineered design of whatever the city has put into it, and then get the inputs from the Park Recreational Committee. And then they go back to the drawing board, they draw out this grandiose park that they're going to take care of all of the engineering and all of that kind of stuff for this tune right here of $332,000. And then we can do it in sections, and they will still be available if we cannot complete the whole project in a year or two, and it might take 5.
Yeah, so what they're going to wind up doing is they're going to take us to the 30% design level of everything, all amenities.
This only includes 30% design.
And then when they're going to do their cost estimate, at that point, we're going to be able to elect how much that funding source will be able to cover, the 2.4 million. And then they're going to run that up to 100% design level.
But
And
it'll go up, right? Their cost will go up.
if we elect for them to push the design beyond that, and that's what we're saying, the phase 2, anything that's phase 2 that we put into that category, we can either design in-house or elect for them to continue their services at that point.
Go ahead, Councilor. Go ahead.
Does that mean that we are designing this to be built in phases? Or are we just phasing the design?
We have $2.4 million of ARPA funding, which we're trying to spend out. So right now, based on Kimley Horn, and they've done a lot of these parks, their RFQ was pretty extensive. They're already from the hip estimating anywhere from $5 to $7 million on this park design. Now, granted, there's a lot of variability in that, depending on what our park committee wants to come back with, the amenities, the sizes of it, the complexity of all the different stuff that we want to put in there. But right now, they're putting that kind of figure to it. So we're going to come up short with the ARPA funds, the $2.4 million. So we want to get those allocated and spent as many amenities that we can put in there with that money. And anything beyond that, we want to try to keep it so that we can do it either internally or if we have the funds to do it at a future date in phase 2.
So they're not gonna plan beyond the ARPA funds.
Yes, as of right now. Yep.
So we're just gonna have blank spots out there for,
Yep. That's what we'll wind up doing. The major infrastructure. We'll have all the parking lots, the sidewalks, the bridge crossing over the wash and the canals, or the graveyard wash that's in there. And then at that point, you're right, we're gonna have the amenities that we can afford with the ARPA fundings. And at that point, we have the decision whether or not we want Kimley Horn to continue to design it or if we want to take it internally.
My other question too is, tell me why, when the city owns the property, why the city can't do their own engineering?
So with regards to this right here, within this proposal, they're estimating 1,780 hours worth of work. We could do a lot of this ourselves, but because we have to have it under contract by 2024, that would be most of our resource from here.
So you're not even going to put a shovel in this project until 2024.
We have to have contracts in place by 2024 and money spent by 2026.
And this echoes the frustrations of citizens that come in about a road taking so long when we have the potential to do a park, and then we're going to spend $332,000 for a 30% design stage that I believe you guys, the staff, could design a beautiful park. And if it needs a splash pad or whatever the committee came back to, that is subbed out through the swimming pool company and they're going to design it how they are. So Kimberly Horn is basically going to go to Shasta Pools or whatever, and they're going to grab from them what they recommend for a splash pad. They're just going to grab that design, place it in front of them, and we're paying them $332,000. I just don't see that that's well money spent. I think that we can do this design in-house and use this $332,000 towards the budget of the park and get more bang for your buck.
So we spot checked a few of their costs, and it's comparable to other design services that we've gotten. We don't feel like that they're over exaggerated their pricing or sabotaging this cost, right? We've done some spot checks on it, and I go back to you, Mayor. I understand that. We do have the potential of doing it in-house, but the resources that it would take, right? You're talking 1,800 hours with no other services, right? If we just focus our time and we'd be a little bit less efficient than them, we're talking about a year's worth of design if we try to do it internally.
The thing is, we've been on El Paso Park for longer than even this was even thought about, and we still have nothing at El Paso Park except for dirt moved. Come on.
So
Anyway, I'm just not in favor of spending this kind of money. 1,700 or 1,700 hours. I can't see them spending 1,700 hours on it. That's just me. I'm in construction. That's what I do for a living. You guys are in engineering. That's what you guys do for a living. I'm just thinking that's just a lot of money that's not well spent for the city. Arnold, do you have something down there?
I think we would probably have to add personnel in order to work on it and do it in-house also. Because it took quite a while with the park we had on 8th Avenue, La Tierra. And that was working that, little by little on that too. So,
But I don't think engineering had 20 hours on it. I think their labor, they had a lot of labor time, if that's what you're asking for, but they didn't have no engineering in that. Very little. I mean, the metal building that they put up there, that awning, that already comes engineered. We didn't engineer that, and if they did, they can correct me right now, but that already comes engineered. Any building that comes in that's engineered for that, it tells you what is required, and then the city just goes and does that. Hey, you guys want to spend it? You guys know where I'm going to vote on this. 30%.
But I still haven't heard if you do it in-house, how much more equipment we might have to purchase to do it, how many more personnel we may have to hire, but I haven't heard those in order to get it done. So,
Councilman Hemphill?
And just to clarify, Gabe, you said there are elements of the engineering that you couldn't do at all.
There's some structural stuff that I won't be
Right.
able to stamp.
So we'd have no alternative for some of it.
But
To the
there is
mayor's point, there may be some packages that we could put together that are creative ways around it, possibly.
we do
But I
have-
wouldn't be able to stamp.
We do have structural engineers that we even have one in the room tonight. We have structural engineers that you guys do business with constantly, and which is Bowman's. They also have structural engineers. Lance, I want to hear what you have to say.
Talking about, going back to your point, man, we small park design. Small park design. Redeveloping the meadows. La Tierra is what, 3/4 of an acre. We're talking a 15-acre regional park that has multiple amenities in it that are specialized amenities. And these park planners and designers know exactly what they're doing. And we're in to make the best park that we can for the community and feel like this is the best bang for our buck to get something that can get done quickly. They'll design it quickly. We'll get started on it quickly, and we'll have a good park in the end.
Is this the only bid you got?
No, we had what, 4 firms. This was the best firm by far.
So the reason I'm having such heartburn is at 30%. So you're not
10%.
getting a full
10%,
design.
just over 10%. You got $2.5 million in there, just over 300,000.
The 30%, yeah.
So you're not
Let's say,
getting,
going back to that 30%, they don't know exactly what we want in this park. The entire project, amphitheater, splash pad, all the playgrounds, parking lot, sewer, that'll all be laid out at 30% with this package, and then we'll look at costs of all that stuff. Now, if we don't want to add any more money to it, then we're going to be limited on what we'll go to 100% in this package. So if we have some more money we want to throw towards it, maybe we add some more amenities. If we decide we can only afford splash pad, pickleball courts, parking lot, and a restroom facility with a bridge, amphitheater comes later, then we wait and do that later. But the amphitheater alone, depending on what we want to do with it, they're talking like $1 million by itself. And so I don't think we want to build $1 million amphitheater, but that's what they have in their mind. We'll kind of tone that down when we start to work with them and see what we can come up with. But, you know, until we get them on the ground and start talking and start looking at the amenities, we really don't know exactly what we're going to be able to afford. And then going back to your comment there, we'll have good estimates. We'll put out a bid for the actual money that, or some good bids on that.
Councilman Lopez, I have a question for you. When the 10-year plan was designed and you that idea back up, and that's why I'm bringing this to you, do you even remember the cost of that?
Oh, God, it was way more than this.
It was way more than
Yes,
this?
sir. Because, and it also was over here, you talk about the 10-year plan.
Mhm.
And we also involved other towns to hopefully be part of it. And we talked as a group and a community, as a county, to look at that down there so we could come together, extending Church Street, First Street over here to go through and have this all meet. That's why we purchased some of the acreage, from going down 14th Avenue, so we could extend that out, build it out. I think you got a little upset about that too.
Oh, that was
But
mainly, it was
we
mainly,
had, we were hoping industrial park would add to some of that, we get rid of it, but the cost was way more, Mayor.
Okay.
And we didn't, at that time, we didn't have the ARPA fund money to spend toward this. We've been dedicating that monies to this project for a year and a half now. I know the numbers drove me nuts too, Mayor.
go ahead, Councilman McGoy.
What's the cost of this at Kimberly Horn?
330,
Two,
332, yes.
So it's not 30% of the 2.4
No,
million.
it's a little over
That's-
10% of the
it's-
estimated
It's less than
funding.
15%.
Yeah,
That 30%'s getting
that
thrown
was the
around like that's a
30%.
cost, and that's not.
And that's just so they can get
30%
an
is
idea
not a
what,
cost.
No, I didn't think it wasn't.
I just want to make sure.
It's 30, it's a complex to a 30% design level.
what we don't want to pay them is $700,000 for a $7 million park, and we can only afford $3 million or whatever. That's what we're trying to avoid.
I don't want to skimp on design, because then if we build what got skimped on, what do we have? But I want a finished product, at least placement wise, so that when we come back and design this piece, we know where it goes and the overall plan is done. Is that what's gonna happen?
That's what we're shooting
Okay,
for is
I'm-
an overall
I'm
plan
good
that
with that.
works. And then the intricate details of some of the things that we're not qualified to design, we want them to do that. And then moving on forward, if we want to phase it out, then, you know, internally we'll handle the next phase as funding's available.
First, I had a problem with that 332, 143 also. But after you kind of, going more into detail about what that involves, it's a lot, but I think we have to go with it so we have a good finished product. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, go ahead now.
We also had a meeting, and I know you were there down the road, entity. They were talking about making their own clubhouse and working with the college to build it, and abandoned the ideas we had for this 10-year plan and left us alone to find our own parts and work on our own.
Yeah, so Matt, what's I'm trying to understand what you.
Yeah, and then, we had that plan and we were working with the other entities of the valley. But then when they started talking about building one in Thatcher, then we were left on our own. Hopefully, you remember we said, well, we'll probably have to scale back that one over here, this part, because we're gonna have to go it alone. And that's pretty much how we got left.
Yeah, I totally understand all of your guys' points. And I also understand, I'm, I'm just, you already pretty much got a design set right there in that picture. And I don't know who drove that, the conceptual park idea provided by the city of Safford. You guys already pretty much showed how things could fit. That already tells you something to this, anyway, I'm done beating this dead horse.
Not the concept behind nothing fit.
Yeah,
Just
so
what-
anyway, so let's that's not even completed, not even
Exactly, and I
started.
think,
Go ahead.
what you have is a point, and this is gonna be a theme that we're gonna talk about throughout the budget process. You have a choice of going out and going through a process and paying someone to do the design, or you have a choice of trying to do it in-house with very limited resources. So again, it's not doable in-house. You can see that with El Paso. So we went out and did the process like anyone would do. We got multiple people to apply. We picked the best firm. They gave us a price. I believe that we negotiated the price down somewhat. There's just no other way around it. You got a choice. Either you pay or you do something in-house, and it's gonna take forever to do
There's
it.
other ways around it. I don't like hearing that. Anyway, I want to entertain a motion for the contracts for 8th Avenue Park Complex.
So move.
Second.
You have a motion to approve the 8th Avenue Parks Complex bid award for Kimberly Horn is what I heard from the Vice Mayor for the sum of,
$332,143.
all right, any more discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? And the reason that I oppose is I oppose spending that kind of money for the design stage when I do believe that it could be done in-house. And I think when you guys are all done, you're going to see the exact same conceptual plan that's pretty much presented to us tonight.
And I echo you, what you're saying, Mayor, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Brings us to item 9.2, Maricopa IGA traffic poles. Okay,
Next, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the mayor and council to authorize and execute an IGA and to approve the expenditures between the city of Safford and Maricopa for the purchase of the traffic lights to be installed on 20th Avenue. The city will be installing traffic lights at both intersections of 20th Avenue and Relation, as well as 20th Avenue and Golf Course. The project was previously bid with no bids received. The feedback from contractors was concerned about the supply of traffic poles, and as supplies were limited and no available cost or delivery from suppliers were known. Maricopa County has generously worked with the city of Safford to supply the traffic poles from their inventory. This will allow the city to rebuild the project for the installation of these poles and controllers while supplying the traffic poles. A formal bid for the installation was received as of Thursday, this last Thursday. This will be for the hardware and the traffic poles only. Installation of the foundation, electrical controllers, luminaires, video detections, and pedestrian push buttons will need to be installed from a selected contractor. For the budget of this, Maricopa has asked for the replacement cost of $78,320 to replace their inventory. This would be from a grant from the State Appropriation Transportation Fund, with no general funds going to it. We did have a budget of 2023 of $319,980. Staff recommends the mayor and council to authorize execute the IGA and approve the expenditures of $78,320 between the city of Safford and Maricopa County, and allow the city manager or his designee authority to execute contract change orders not to exceed 10% of the contracted value, if in the best interest of the city to do so.
so Gabe, just a moment on this project. This was merited, correct? Was this traffic control merited, or was it just something the council wanted?
So they did do a traffic study. The one they said that was on Relation justified traffic control that was in there. And then the one that was on the golf course was really close. So this was done several years ago. I'll look to Lance to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was about 5 to 7 years ago. I'm sure that there's merit for that we could justify it on golf course as well. So.
Okay. And also, is this one here going to be, this is going to answer some questions too, but is this also going to be state ran to where we have to deal with the state on how snow they move along, as like what they're moving along now?
No,
that road is not us, it's the state running.
It's ADOT administered, correct. This is outside the ADOT, so this won't be administered. This will be done internally.
This will
So,
be done so
we won't have
you're
to
saying
red tape.
internally, meaning we can do it.
Yeah.
We
gonna-
can
we're gonna
install our own
administer.
traffic lights, but we can't design parks. Cool.
We're,
You have
we're
any-
gonna, we're gonna oversee the
Okay,
configuration.
do you have anything, Arnold, on this? This is right up your alley, right here. Okay, perfect.
I move we approve the Maricopa IGA for the $78,320.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the IGA traffic poles of Maricopa for 78,320 by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilman Mike Anazzola. Any more discussion?
I think it's something we really need. And I think we should start educating the public again, that there are gonna be traffic signals, start looking for them, start letting the public know.
Absolutely. And going back to the mayor's point, when we develop whatever that communication looks like,
Yes.
You asked a good question. You said, why is it staff can do the traffic poles and can't do the larger project? It's because of the statute. I think I heard someone say during the course of the discussion under the prior item that there were some elements of the project that couldn't be done in-house. And because of that, there's a statute, 34103 C, that says unless you can determine you can all do it in-house, the legislature wants you to get a professional engineer. That's why they had to do it in the larger project. You don't have to do it in the smaller project.
Okay. So, Bill,
Yes, sir.
when you say larger project, can you give me a sum on the amount of money? Is it 2,400,000?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm just using that as the generic term. I'm
Okay.
talking about the project we just did.
You understand where I'm going with this? Okay.
But it has nothing to do with amount. It has to do with, do you have the competent house to do the full project? If not, they want you to hire an engineer.
Okay. We do have a motion. We do have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9.3, Sanchez Rose Property Bid Award. Mr. Hoschel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to propose the acceptance of a offer on Sanchez Road property of $70,000. The City of Safford owns property at 10335 Sanchez Road. The property went through the formal bid process 3 times prior to this one with a minimum bid price set at the appraisal value. No bids were received, although there was a large amount of interest. The property was rebid with no minimum price set at council direction, and a bid was submitted with negotiated to $70,000 after council direction. It is our recommendation to accept the negotiated price of $70,000, and the buyer will pay all closing costs.
What do you think of that, Arnold?
No,
I got 10 more though.
10 more. It's gonna stay out there with the neighborhood that's out there. That's what I like.
Accept the $70,000 bid on the Sanchez Road property.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve the Sanchez Road Property Bid Award for $70,000 by Councilman McGoy, seconded by Vice Mayor Ortega. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Hoschel. Bring us to item 9.4, City Prosecutor Contract. Mr. Casella.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request from the Council to appoint Clifford PC as City Prosecutor for the City of Safford. Mr. Clifford will perform prosecutorial and victim advocacy services on behalf of the city as delineated in the attached contract. Basically, this is a renewal. I looked at the contract because I thought we might have an increase, so I wanted to have it in the budget process. Mr. Clifford did not increase the amount, so the contract will begin July 1, 2023, run through June 30, 2026. It is a $7,000 per month fee and then $4,000 for victims advocacy, and staff recommends approval of the contract.
Wow, this is our first contract that didn't increase.
Yeah, you know, that's why I brought it up, because I thought he probably would bump it up, but he didn't, so, but I thought I might as well
So
bring it.
inflation didn't hit him. That's good. I'm really happy for him to keep it the way it is.
I thought last time they bumped it up there because, they were in need of a linguistic, but none of that's mentioned here, so I'm happy with it too.
Absolutely. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Okay. What's your motion?
My motion is to go ahead and accept contract for the city prosecutor with Matt Clifford.
Yes. We have a second. We have a motion to approve Matt M. Clifford as our city prosecutor for 2020.
I want 2023
through
through
the
26.
2026, 3-year contract. And I have a second by Councilman Hempfield. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Announcement of current events. What we got coming up? Vigo, anything? No? Quiet on that end? Anything down here? Anybody has anything like within their
Within my
liaisons?
within the liaison part with the Pride of Safford, want to remind the citizens and individuals to please start nominating people so we can honor them for the Pride of Safford Award.
Okay,
Had a meeting with the Arizona Agency on Aging, at least 4 staff attended. It was a hearing to kind of guide us, and they were asking for the kind of help and surveys that they need to gather so that we have a good count on the needs of the elderly in the community. Even Mr. David attended, well attended by elected officials and others. The 2020 census, we're still kind of awaiting the impact that will have on some of what's going to take place. We have a meeting such as that. I'm hoping that some of you will attend, because we will be needing to start advocating and talking to our most newly elected officials within our new district and getting their attention.
you're doing good on that?
Yeah, I think we will have their ears there.
Okay, anybody else? Brings us to item 11, request for future agenda items. Anybody have anything for future agenda items? Okay. Operational items. I think first up is our water system, which is Mr. Seal.
Evening, Mayor and Council. It's been a while since we've given you an update on our city water system. And so we wanted to take the opportunity, as we have a new council member, and just a refresher for existing council members of what our water system consists of. So with that, start the slide. So we have essentially 2 sources that we get our potable water from. We have Bonita Creek, which is an infiltration gallery that's capable of producing 2,100 gallons per minute to 3 million gallons a day. There's also well 15, which is a well within the Bonita Creek area that is an emergency backup. The reason for that is that if we turn well 15 on, that pipe will only accept 2,100 gallons per minute. So essentially we're burning fuel to put the same amount of volume down that pipe. So we want to allow Bonita Creek unrestricted as much as possible. The other sources that we have are domestic wells. We have roughly 10 of them in town here. We have Clontz, Morris 1, 2, and 3, Alder, Kempton A, B, and C, Carrasco, and Clontz Bluff. So Clontz Bluff is also labeled as an emergency backup because how close it is to Bonita Creek. If we turn Clontz Bluff in line, the dynamics of that system will hold back free-flowing water from Bonita Creek. So if Bonita Creek ever reduces flow, we can turn Clontz Bluff on and not impede that flow. This slide here is a design of a submersible well. This is a common design that we have within our system. So as you can see, the pump and the motor are under the water level. We have a water table that is static, which is that the dotted line. And when you turn the well on, there is a pumping level, which draws that water down. You can see that cone that goes towards that that well or the pump. And so whenever you see in the monthly reports, as I report water tables, you'll notice that it's kind of an upside down bar graph. And what we're talking about is that we measure from the top of the casing down to the water level. So as we measure down, we put our probe into the well casing, and when we hit that water level, it sounds and tells us that's where the water table is. So that will change whether we have the well running or if it's on and we haven't reached that pumping level. This is an example of the monthly report, and this is actually last month's water tables. As you notice that the blue lines are this year's and last month's compared to the previous month and year. So as you can see, all the blue lines are above our black lines, which indicates a good water table. And as I was entering these numbers in, I was very surprised on how high our water tables are at right now. So we have had a wet winter, and it is showing within our water tables. This red line is always there. This is the 2013 level. This is kind of our benchmark where we saw or experienced low water tables along with Bonita Creek volumes diminishing. However, Bonita Creek has been restored through siphoning, but we always use the 2013 levels as a benchmark since those were kind of the lowest that we've seen. So with all this water that we're bringing in, we need to put it somewhere. So we have several storage tanks within our system. We have our 10 million gallon tank, which is our main storage facility within A zone. We have Discovery Park tank. We have Lebanon tank, Thunderbird, Hillcrest, Quail Ridge, Daly Estates. With all those tanks combined, we have roughly 20 million gallons of storage capacity. And each of their volumes is indicated on the right next to them in millions of gallons. So how we get the water from A to B is through essentially transmission mains. So the blue tank in the middle of the screen there indicates our 10 million gallon tank. So we have our Bonita Creek system, our 12-inch line or our 10-inch line that comes on the south side of the river, which was constructed in 1930s, 1940s. And then we have a 12-inch line that runs along the north side of the river. And then we also have a 24-inch line that pumps into that as well. So along our Bonita Creek system, on the 12-inch side north, we have our well 15 up in the Bonita Creek area. We have Clontz Bluff. We have Clontz Well. We have Morris 1, 2, and 3. And we have Alder. So as you can see, all those wells are pumping into that 12-inch line. So as we start turning wells on during the summer, we also impact the dynamics of that Bonita Creek flow. So we really have to manage that as dynamic as it is. On the 24-inch line, we have Kempton A, B, and C, and then we also have Carrasco. So those are injected directly into the 24-inch line and go straight to the 10 million gallon tank. For our non-potable water sources, we have the wastewater treatment plant that produces roughly about 700,000 gallons per day of reclaimed water. We also have Fry Mesa and Smith Well. So the locations to use the non-potable water, we have the golf course, the fairgrounds, Firth Park, El Paso Park, Discovery and 8th Avenue Park, Glen Meadows, and EAC campus. So the first two, golf course and the fairgrounds, are our first parks that we're going to be delivering the reclaimed water to. And through the recorded volume of the treatment plant, those two alone will take up pretty much 100% of our reclaim. So the other areas that will be watering or irrigating will come from the Smith Well source. So we have the golf course reclaimed ponds on the south side of the golf course. We get the source of the reclaim or the treatment plant water through the transmission down Robinson Ranch. We also have our second source of water that goes to the golf course, which is Fry Mesa. That is a seasonal source, and that is the flow meter that you saw a purchase of. We have to read that flow and report that to the GRIC. So any water we use from Fry Mesa, we report it to the GRIC as well as the treatment plant. So you have two sources going into the golf course. So after that, we have the line, the Fairgrounds Pond, and we'll have the Perth Park there. We'll have the line that goes from the treatment plant all the way down 14th Avenue and make its way to the fairgrounds to introduce the reclaim into their ponds. The other locations that are potential users of the non-potable water is the Apalsa Park. We have Glen Meadows Park, and we have Discovery Park and 8th Avenue. So with the treatment plant producing as much volume as those two locations can use, we'll need to supplement that source with a well, which is Smith Well, a project that we're working on. It's going to be crossing the bridge and introducing into the holding pond to the north of the treatment plant. So with that source, additional source supplementing that, we can start including other parks that are currently using potable water for irrigation. We can then use them as reclaim and then use that potable water elsewhere. And with that, I'll leave any questions.
Morgan, we're not currently pumping any reclaimed water up to the fairgrounds at this time, correct?
Mayor Kaus, that's correct. They're currently finishing up that project, and we're also currently working on that Smith Well project. We have 80 to 90%.
And just for clarification, there's fishing that happens at the county ponds. This isn't going to affect any of that, correct?
So with this reclaimed water, they shouldn't be swimming in it. We'll have to put post signs up there and actual recreational fishing to capture and eat. I don't believe that would be a good idea. I think it may be.
Okay, so then the fishing, but we have
So that
let the
it
county
may-
know that they will have to post
It may
signs about
impact
that.
that, right?
Okay. And I want to make sure of that, so. That was a really good presentation.
Good, thank
Your
you.
graphics were remarkable, so if you did it, kudos to you. If you had one of your staff do it, kudos to them. I really appreciate that. It really gave us a direction of the flow that's going to, so appreciate that.
When is it? I think that they have the fishing derby out there. Will that be gone?
So they can actually have fish in there, but actually catching and eating the fish is another thing. So they can fish as just a sport and return the fish to the water. That's not an issue. They probably wouldn't, or they're not going to want to swim in it. We're going to be required to post signs that it is reclaimed water, just so that they know. But it shouldn't impact that type of sport. However, I would, before I'm done, I'd like to make a note of how fortunate we are as the city of Safford owning an asset like Bonita Creek. Is very unique.
Absolutely.
There's not a lot of systems that have that, where it's 3 million gallons without any energy used. I mean, it's incredible what it took for those men and women during that day to construct something like that. And it's just it's an honor to be able to work within the system and serve this community.
Absolutely. Well said. Go ahead.
You said 100% of the effluent water coming from over there. Is that now, or when we get the lagoon going, is that gonna add capacity too?
So as our current operation, we're sending whatever we can to the golf course, and there's times where they say, hey, turn it off, we're full. So we're actually dumping into the river. So as I say that we have the recorded flows that leave our plant, 100% of that would be allocated to both of those locations. So the golf course will use a portion of that, and then the fairgrounds as well. We, by record, we have enough to support both.
Okay. And we haven't heard from you yet for budget per se, and the water takes priority as far as I'm concerned, so I want to make sure everything's going right for you when it's your turn to talk to us about that.
Councilman Lopez, you did mention the lagoon. Is that even started or been done? It's been talked about for years.
I thought it was dug and some
Is it dug?
cement work done. I don't know that it's lined.
Could you
So
quickly,
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, we have done a lot of final or grade work on that pond, and currently we're scraping the clay knolls area to get all that clay. We're planning on transporting that clay and lining it. We have one complication with the turnout structure. It's a concrete structure that diverts the water from the plant to the pond or to the river. We went out and requested bids for that, and nobody bid on it. So we're gonna have to drop back and see how we're gonna get that constructed.
so it's not constructed
It's
yet?
not.
The turnout structure is not, the pond itself, the shape of it is, majority of that's done. We just have to bring the clay in and line it.
Don't do it in-house, sub it out.
No, we're doing that in-house.
Okay. All right,
We
thanks,
actually
Morgan.
tried to
I
sub it out, but
appreciate
it
that.
came in 3 times as high as budget.
Go ahead, Jason.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
You want to sub something out?
I just wanted to give, make sure that we got Morgan the good clap on the back, because that presentation was his personally. We're gonna actually use part of that presentation, put it in our education outreach program. So that as we reach out to the community, they have the understanding of what that system looks like. So I agree with you. Well done. Tonight, I'm here to talk about our power purchase update and our current market standards. So since our last update in October, been some significant changes. And with our new council member on board, Councilman Arbizo, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of what the City of Safford's energy supply looks like. So if you look at our portfolio, it's pretty limited. The majority of it coming from a natural gas electric plant. And so through that, our energy prices are completely based on the commodity of natural gas. In September, there's a significant increase with that. The City of Safford has done its due diligence and has put a program together that allowed us to get into a contract that would add this additional percentage here into our portfolio that comes off of solar and battery, and that's currently that contract is being finalized and completed. Construction and open to the market will be in May of 25.
Study on it, but you're not.
No,
talking-
the construction will be complete and the power produced will start to the market online. So when we came back in September, this is kind of our market that we dealt with through the years. We sat at about $2 per millions of BTUs. We saw some significant spike when we had the Texas freeze in February of 21, and then the market continued to grow. As you can see here, it continued to fluctuate. And so when we came in September, we talked about this, and at that point in time, we made a decision to increase our PPA costs. So with that, a PPA is really to capture unforeseen changes in the power supply expenses that go with it. So we have a base fee that's associated with our maintenance and our operations of the system. And then the PPA is an adjustment specifically to respond to those market changes in our commodity. Our last base rate changes occurred in March of 2018, and we've been able to hold those pretty steady because the market's been pretty steady. But with these changes in the market in October, we changed our PPA increase and came out with a 5.5 cent kilowatt total. That's our total for the PPA adjustment, which added about 30% to a normal bill. At that point in time in October, the City Council approved the use of $1.25 million of reserved funds from the Electric Enterprise Fund to support the citizens and try and offset that significant increase in rising power costs. Since October, things haven't gotten better in the gas world. We had sustained cold throughout the winter, which really increased the demands across all the states. There was a drawdown on the existing gas storages, which increases volatility in pricing. And then there was pipeline restrictions both north and south and east and west through the west. So with that, like I said, we had a spike go over the $5 mark, which we really kind of highlighted as a high point. In December of 2022, we spiked at 50. So it was almost a 2,500% increase from that price that we saw prior to that. So the quadrupling went from $2 to $8, where we adjusted our PPA in October, and it's continued. It's 600 times higher than what we talked about at that point in October. So the arrow shows on this graph shows us where we were at in October, and then the obvious spikes that have occurred since that point. So with that, within our rate study and our code, it's required that it gives us the ability to review our PPA twice a year, both in October and then again in March. So with those changes in the commodity costs, we can see here, our blue line here was our forecast that we put in last year's budget, which over the 12-month period gave us a $6 million expected expenditure for power purchase for the year. That was adjusted in October in that presentation to show that increase. So it moved us up an additional 2.7 million. With the current forecast, it's forecasted that we're going to be double our original budgeted forecast of 6 million to just short of $12 million is what the power purchase looks like it's going to be for our forecasted for the year 2022-2023. So with that 11.9 million, we have a forecasted budget of 6 million. We're obviously falling short of our forecast for 2022 with 5.9 million shortfall. With the changes that we made in October, the 1.25 million provided by the council to our customers, and then with the PPA adjustment, we still find ourselves $3.3 million short of our need for our power purchases for this year. Within our electric fund, we had the ability to defer some capital spend from the year, and that provided an additional $2 million in savings for that deferment. And so we're still short 1.3 million to fulfill that shortfall in our cost adjustments for that budget. And so tonight, I have a 2.2 cent per kilowatt hour, which is similar to what we did in September, to try and provide what that shortfall is to us for this fiscal year. Within that, that doesn't obviously pay back the capital spend, the $2 million that'll be spent on that capital in the future, or the 1.2. We have the ability within the program to review that PPA on a biannual, so we'd bring it back to you again in October and look at that. This is where we stand today in the electric world with the expenditures that we have. Because of your sound financial support in the past, we have these reserves available to us to spend. But again, because of the limited gas storage in the West, the volatility is going to continue to be all over the board because of that. Just the gas storage is currently 52% lower than its normal 5-year average, which adds to that volatility in the market price. So the actions that we have moving forward, we're going to defer that $2 million in capital spend, increase our PPA to 2.2 cents per kilowatt hour, and we'll leave that in place obviously through October, and then look at what that time frame looks like and what the market's done in response to these spikes over the next 7 months. And then hopefully we have the ability over the next year and a half to replenish our reserves and give us that needed capital for expenditure. I just wanted to point out, some of the other activities that we're going to continue to work on is continue to look at diversifying our portfolio for our power. We're gonna look at the cost of service rate study to see if there's any differences we can do within that, whether that's an increase or a decrease. It really will be based on what we can do around our portfolio and what we can change in the requirements within our city. And then we're gonna obviously stay on top of our natural gas and power markets as we move forward so that we're able to respond and keep you guys informed with any of the information that we need about significant market events. And with that, I just wanted to put it forward to you, and if you had any questions or comments.
Jason, I'm almost out of a fight tonight.
Come
but
on now. What do you
first of all,
need?
I do want to tell you, I want to congratulate you and the team of Rough Rider boys for a championship win.
Thank you, man.
It's an amazing job and amazing accomplishment. So I'm setting you up because now I want to.
I'm ready for it.
Throw you a left hook if I can here. So there's a shortfall. And so that therefore you want to enact the 2.2 kilowatt. Like, can you better explain it to me? Maybe because I'm not understanding how we got to this shortfall. Is it because of solar power? Is it because of what caused us to get to this shortfall?
So really, Mayor and Council, it's the shortfall comes because of the commodity increase. So we throw it around a little bit, but we can't sell $10 gas for $5. Ultimately, we have to pay the piper, and we don't get to set what that commodity cost is. We can only purchase what's available on the market. And because we're so natural gas dependent within our system, we don't have the ability to find that outside resource. That's part of the reason why the city council and previous directors have pushed us towards that solar power, and John, working with the years before I came in, right, got us set up with this mesquite and allows us to have in May of 2025 the ability to pull almost 30% of our power from solar means instead of natural gas.
And so, Jason, before this is enacted, is there going to be something in the utility bills to very easily explain why there will be an increase in their electricity utility bills so that customers will understand that a little bit? So we don't just, I mean, in other words, there's nothing I hate worse opening up my utility bill and just seeing an increase. And then it's like, when I do my cost comparisons from last month or last year or whatever, and then because I don't really pay attention to that 2.2 kilowatt adjustment.
Yeah.
And so I'm really concerned over those who are, like on fixed income, because their cost adjustment didn't change very much. I mean, gosh, it's so minimal, and then we're going to be hitting them. And I understand that we've been carrying that burden for a while. So I want them to understand we have been carrying that burden for a while. And now it's time that we have to kind of help pass the buck on to get caught back up. But I just don't want you to hit the customers just like today and that. So in other words, will you please put in there, is there a grace period at least, or are you going to start this next utility cycle?
So within, we built through the 20th, so starting on the 21st of April would have been when this billing change would occur. With that, the mail there'll be an explanation of how we got there, and then it'll be on our Facebook page, the city's Facebook page. Wednesday, I'm planning on going on the radio to take calls and questions so that the public has the ability to interact and ask questions specifically in their case. So,
Jason, that's about the same amount as before on an average bill, right? Another 22 or so,
yes,
approximately?
yeah, approximately.
Okay.
When you say review twice annually, are you saying just twice annually?
So within that, as the utilities director from that rate study, we have the ability to review that and change it twice annually. If there's dramatic changes in market values and the city council wants the ability to change that more often, it can be brought, and you guys have that ability, but I do not. No, there's no new limitation. That's the way it's been since 2008 from that rate study.
I, it,
It's extremely limited. Even with the new snowfalls, they're not expecting a significant change in what their prognostication of long term.
having that much in natural gas.
Oh, and definitely, and just to make a quick point, we'll be bringing some operational conversation next month around our gas fund and the stabilization fund that exists within the gas enterprise fund. It's a little different than how the electric is done, and so we'll bring that same educational information and then just similar to where the gas stands today next month. So.
Just a quick, so we bring the PPA, it's an administrative act, really, because it's part of the rate study, it's part of what we've adopted. We will be coming back to have a discussion, however, where you're gonna get an opportunity to look at, the impact on the overall budget, because we went from $6 million to 12. That meant there's $6 million of expenditures that we didn't budget for. And so we remember that when we pass our tentative budget, it sets a cap. So we'll be coming back because we will need to talk to you about moving those contingencies in to cover that. And we may actually be mixing some of the general fund in with it as well. And again, the contingency is just the ability to expend funds. Those monies didn't have anything tied to it. So here's a perfect example of when you look at the contingency numbers that we're using, 5 million in the general fund, 3 million in utilities. Had we not had that money there, we would have had to done some kind of an emergency act because we would not have had the budgetary cap in order to expend that increase in money. And those movements of those contingencies does require council approval. So at some point, as we talk about the budget, we'll be talking about the movement of those funds and how those contingencies will be used to cover the expenditures in electric and gas.
Have anything else? Mayor?
Move that we